Yes, you gotta love some Rambo First Blood Part 2. Once you listen to my interview today with Master Sergeant Israel Del Toro, you'll understand why I chose that music. We also could have chosen Commando, I guess, if we wanted to, or Terminator, but because we talk about several different movies back from those days. But anyway, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I am Thad Forrester. Our guest, Master Sergeant Israel Del Toro, was in Afghanistan in 2005 in the Air Force. He's a TAC-P, and so he was serving as his team's JTAC, and his vehicle hit a roadside bomb. The effects of that put him in a coma for almost 4 months. He lost almost all of his fingers. His body was severely burned. Actually, over 80% of his body had third-degree burns. He was given a 15% chance of survival. But he defied the odds and made a miraculous recovery. During his rehabilitation, he was introduced to adaptive sports as a therapeutic outlet, and it quickly became something he excelled at because he has participated in the Invictus Games multiple years. He's won multiple medals. I know he's won a gold and he's won a silver. I think he's got one in powerlifting. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Shot put, and I'm not sure what else. But the guy has just really been through the ringer. After waking up from his coma, Del Toro was given a bleak prognosis and was told he may never walk or breathe on his own again, and that he most definitely would not be able to re-enlist in the military. But guess what? He did. He now is an instructor at the Air Force Academy. He was a father. He talks about his son. His son was 3 at the time, and how he was his inspiration. How nervous he was to see his son for the first time after the injury, because he didn't know what his reaction was going to be, because once again, he looked a lot different. Actually, while Del Toro was in the hospital, he didn't see himself for quite a while. They covered up all the mirrors to kind of slowly, they had to work on his pain, and they didn't want him to see himself right off the bat, but he ended up seeing himself by an accident, and it really put him down for just a little bit. He wanted them to wonder why they didn't leave him in the field dead. But the guy is just a rock star. He's a mentor to many people. He received the Pat Tillman Award for Service in 2017 at the ESPY Awards. So you can watch his acceptance speech there. It's very, very good. So let's get in with Mr. DT. DT, thanks for joining me today. I want to ask you, first of all, before you were wounded, what was your plan for life?
Well, it's crazy. When I first joined, I was thinking, I'm only going to do 4 years and I'll be out and stuff like that. But as you know, and it happens to a lot of us, once we joined, we get in a career for that we truly enjoyed. And we enjoyed, doing my job as a tactical control party member. And I thought, I was like, well, I'm going to stay in, for 20 years and continue doing this job. That was my goal. Of course, everything changes.
Yeah, you certainly did. And we'll get into that for sure. I'd like to talk, first of all, or go backwards, because I've read a little bit about your childhood and growing up. I mean, what was it like? Because I think were you raised by your grandmother, or you had some heavy weight on your shoulders as a young boy?
Yeah, at a young age, I lost my dad at the age of 12, and then a year and a half later, I lose my mom. So me and my brothers and sisters ended up being raised by my grandparents, and me being the oldest, that was a little tough, having to be the one to try and hold the family together. Because, one thing I'll never forget is, the day before my dad passed away, I was the last one to talk to him, and he told me something at the time was weird. I didn't understand why he said it to me. He says, promise me that you'll always take care of your family. And I'm like, yeah, Dad. I don't know if he knew that he was going to pass away or something, but, I've been using those words I've been living up to those words ever since
How did he die?
I was a kid. My dad had a heart attack, and then my mom was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, God. Okay. So did you feel the weight kind of immediately, maybe after he died, that, hey, I need to be the man of the house now and take care of my siblings, or how did you slowly start feeling that?
I want to say more after my mom passed away. That's when I really felt it. But luckily, I had things to help me cope with everything that was going on. I was into sports, so sports helped me a lot. Playing baseball, playing football. That helped me, I guess, manage between feeling that weight of, okay, now I'm the oldest, I gotta be there for my brothers and sisters, because even though, yeah, our grandparents were taking care of us, that's 2 generations behind us. So they're very old fashioned. So I was always like the mediator for when my sisters wanted to do something, my brother wanted to do something. So, but luckily I did have sports that kept me sane.
Mm-hmm. Well, seems like that would make the decision to join the military so much harder because of the responsibility you had. Was it a tougher decision, or did you just know it was the right thing to do?
It was crazy, because people always, they'll hear me like, man, did you come from a big old military background? I was like, no, I was the first to join. If you met me in my high school, college years, I never would have thought of joining the military. But, once my brothers and sisters were old enough, I was working out of, I was done with college, and I was thinking, well, I saw commercials, like, why not? Let's try a new adventure, My brothers and sisters are already old enough to take care of each other. Let me do something for me. And so, off a whim, I was like, let's go check out a recruiter and hear what they got to say.
By the way, how old or how many siblings? Is it just a brother and a sister?
It's 2 sisters and a brother. So it's me, my sister, then my brother, and then my sister.
Okay.
And we're all each like 2 years apart.
Okay. So you decide on the Air Force. What was it about TACP that made you want to join that? Because that's you are, by the way, you're the second TACP I've had on here. And, not many people obviously know what they are, what they do, because
right.
My brother was a controller and nobody knows them either.
Right.
So what was it about that?
What's funny is, like, originally I was going to join to be a PJ, pararescueman. And I remember being there in basic, and then the TAC D recruiter come in and starts talking about the job. And I was like, man, that sounds cool. I was like, yeah, I want to do all the stuff that he talked about, calling in the airstrikes, jumping out of planes. He just made it sound very exciting. He made it sound like it was almost like being Rambo. And that was kind of one of the reasons I did want to join the military, because, no one had ever joined. I wanted to do something challenging. PJ would have been challenging, but I always remember my dad and my grandpa always watching, like, Rambo or World War II movies. And I was like, man, I want to be that image. I guess that's, at least in my mind, that's what it felt like, that I was going to be in that image of Rambo. And so I before I graduated basic, I went through to the Tech Peace schoolhouse. And from then on, never regretted my choice.
Yeah, Rambo. That was a big movie in my house. Growing up, we couldn't watch rated R movies, but we could watch Rambo. Basically, anything with Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger we could watch. So yeah, we definitely loved Rambo. My wife just thinks it's the corniest shit movies now, but yeah, I still watch them when they're on.
Oh yeah, as a little kid, I'm thinking growing up, that was huge as a boy. They had all these, like, action movie stars, like you said, Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone as Rambo, or Arnold Schwarzenegger as Commando. Remember Commando?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what every boy was like, I want to be that dude. I want to be just like that, and I want to be swole like him too.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Trying to find that knife that Rambo had that kind of reflected there around the edges. That was they had some. I got a cheap one, but it would cut barbed wire.
The big old Bowie knife.
Oh yeah. Well, so fast forward. I want to. So now we're not going to talk about your injury in detail because it's documented so much. I wanted to talk about some other things, but of course, if you want to get into it, feel free to. But now you had your injury. Okay, well, let me ask you this. You were in Afghanistan, is that right?
Yeah, I was in Afghanistan.
Okay, and were you the JTAC for your team?
I was.
Okay.
I was a JTAC.
All right, so your vehicle hits a roadside bomb, just correct me if I'm wrong, and you're in a coma for 3 months. I mean, you're severely burned, like 80% of your body, like a third-degree burn or something.
Yeah, I was in a coma for 4 months.
4 months.
And 80% of my body had third-degree burns, and also given only a 15% chance to survive. So it was a tough road. Getting through that, surviving, and then going through that recovery. It was tough because going through some of that recovery is probably the most intense pain that a human could possibly go through. Because, when you're severely burned, you got to be stretched. Your skin becomes hypersensitive, so you got to desensitize your skin. You have all these surgeries, and, you got to learn how to walk again. Because at the time, after I woke up from my coma, they gave me, they told me I almost died 3 times. Still be at a hospital for another year and a half. I'll be on a respirator for the rest of my life. And I'm probably not going to walk again. And my military career is pretty much over. And of course, 2 months after that, I proved them all wrong. Because I left that hospital walking and breathing on my own.
That's awesome. Did you have to, I heard a guy speak one time who was severely burned. He talked about, it's like an acid bath or something he had to have every day. Is that what it is? Something like that? It's just just terribly painful.
Well, I do know, when you're severely burned, they pretty much skin you alive. Because what's going to kill you is the infection. So they got to get rid of all that burnt skin. So they scrub you. It's like a scrub. And, thank God I don't remember any of that, because I guarantee that would have been pure hell.
Mm-hmm.
But, once I woke up, it was just like a normal, since I couldn't move, all my muscles were atropine. The nurses would have to, bathe me. They'll carry you out, put you like on the slab, and then, wash your body for you. But for me, at least, I don't remember any acid bath. I just remember being told that they say just remove all the burnt skin off your body.
And they had to do that regularly, correct?
Yeah, they did it all during the first month. I was told, at least from my wife, that because of course they can't take off the skin in one day. They go through several days removing the burnt skin off your body.
Will you talk about the first time that you saw your face? Because I think I read where they had a towel over the mirror in the bathroom, and so you didn't see yourself for a while after you became conscious.
No, it didn't. They cover all the mirrors when you're severely burned because they want to ease you into your transition of what you look like now. In my head, I always thought, okay, I probably don't look the same. Eyebrows are probably gone. But I figured I kind of still look what I used to look like. So, and I always call this my darkest hour because, never throughout my recovery did I wish I died or anything like that until this moment of my recovery. I was learning how to walk again, and I had to go to the restrooms, but I still couldn't walk that well. So my wife and my therapist, who I call like my guardian angel, man, this dude was 6'6", tall, big, bald, white dude. But they were helping me to the restroom, and I remember I slipped and I was about to fall, and they grabbed me, and I'm not sure if it was my therapist, my wife, that stuck their hand out and accidentally pulled down the towel off the mirror, but I saw my face, and when I saw my face, I broke down. I lost it, and I told my wife, why'd you let them save me? I should have died down range. I should have died out there. And it wasn't a vanity thing. That wasn't my thing why I wanted to die. I was, at the time, 30 years old. I thought I was a monster. My thing is what's my son at the time, 3 years old, is going to think? Because no father wants this, no parent wants his child to be afraid of him, especially me, for me growing up, my dad was everything to me. He was my world. So the thought of my son being afraid of me, not want to be around me, crushed me. And for 45 minutes, I was just sitting there on the floor crying. It's like, I should have died. I should have died. And, my wife's like, tries like, no, don't be saying that. You gotta, your son, someone just wants his dad. And, your son doesn't care. And, my therapist was like, DT, you don't realize how many people you inspire, not only from other patients there at the ICU, but not only staff members. You can't let this be just like, no, I should have died. And then, I remember Gary telling me, was like, DT, trust me, man. All your son wants is his dad back. That's all he wants. And it took, after that, maybe another 5 or 10 minutes to kind of calm me down. And I was like, all right. And to push all that fear to the back of my head and to continue pushing forward in my recovery. But yeah, that first time I saw him, I was like, I lost. I let it beat me for that moment.
Well, describe what it was like seeing your son for the first time.
Well, it was crazy because again, my son was 3 years old, so he wasn't allowed inside the hospital, and I hadn't seen him since the year prior, in August of 2005, for his birthday. I saw him for his birthday, and then I headed downrange.
Okay, and so it's been 2 years.
It was almost going to be a year.
Okay.
So after I finally got out of the hospital, I wanted to say about June, end of May, early June, and I come walking into the house, and then keep in mind, I'm completely wrapped up. I have to have bandages all throughout my body, so I kind of look like a freaking mummy. And I remember some of my teammates being there, so my brothers and sisters, my wife, some of my family members, and I remember my wife, yelling out to my son, I was like, "Hey, Dad's home," and he comes running, and I hear his little feet, plopping out against on the floor. He smells like a little penguin, running over, and I'm in the living room, and he sees me and stops, and all of a sudden, all that fear that I pushed in the back of my head about him being afraid of me comes rushing back. And I'm thinking, I was like, oh my God, he's scared of me, he's terrified of me. He just stopped. But then, as I'm thinking that, he just tilts his head to the side and he says, Papi, meaning Dad in Spanish. I was like, yeah, buddy. And he just comes up and gives me the most amazing hug I ever had in my life. Probably, besides watching him being born, probably the best moment in my life. And, of course, my wife's like, don't hurt your dad, don't hurt your dad. And I'm like, shut up, woman, let me hold my son, It's been almost a year since I've seen him.
Was it hurting while he was holding you, hugging you?
Not at all. I didn't feel any pain, But again, my therapist, Gary, was right, man. All he wanted was his dad, man. That's all he wanted back was his dad. Because sometimes, we don't give kids enough credit. We think they can't handle things, but sometimes they're stronger than we think. Because, again, my son didn't care what I look like. He just wanted his dad home. Yeah.
You've said that your son inspired you to persevere in your darkest hour, and you said that he's your fire. I mean, how does he inspire you?
Well, everyone has to find, going through anything, what drives them. Because I always say our mind is a very powerful thing. In our head, if we quit before we try, we're done. So you got to find that fire, that strength, that lights you up, that keeps you going. And for me, it was my son. I always, after all that diagnosis they gave me about, what was going to happen to me, or what I could not do, I never wanted to be that guy that sat around the house hating life and asked asking myself, why did this happen to me? And you know, no one would have doubted me if I did. You know, I had a challenging life. You know, I had lost my parents at a young age. You know, in college, my grandma gets diagnosed with cancer. You know, then the first year in the military, my grandma died of cancer. And then, you know, this happened to me. Of course, you know, people wouldn't have doubted me. You know, according to the stats, you know, growing up in the South Side of Chicago, I should have been either a gangbanger or a drug dealer. But I never wanted to be that. Again, I never wanted to be that guy to just hate life because of what happened to me. For me, I always told myself, like, first of all, that's not me teaching my son anything if I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, I'm not living up to that promise I made my dad to always take care of your family. And for me, that phrase doesn't really just pertain to your immediate family, your wife, your son, your brothers, sisters, but I also see it as anybody, you know, your teammates, your military family, you know, strangers out there that need help. So, you know, I took that to heart. And again, you know, I wanted to show my son, whatever obstacles in front of you, as long as you don't quit and you stay positive, you will overcome anything. And so he was my strength. And again, I wanted to see my son. You know, I really wanted to see him because it was tough being there in April when it was turn my birthday, and not even being able to see my son on my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was my entire inspiration besides my dad's words. I was like, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to show my son I can beat this. I'm going to show him that dad's not quitting. You know, dad's not going to hate life. He's not going to sit there and ask, why did this happen to me? He's like, okay, yeah, I had a bad day at work, but I'm still here. I'm still going to see you grow up. I'm going to see you play baseball. You know, I'm going to see you freaking, you know, finally have a girlfriend, you know, date, watch you grow up. You know, dad's not going to miss any of that, you know, like my dad did, you know.
And your son's a teenager now, I guess, right? Is he around 15 or something?
Yeah, brother. He's going to turn 16 in August, which is crazy to me. I was like, holy crap, he's not a kid anymore. You know, he's not that 3-year-old little kid that came running out the first time. Now he's almost my height, you know, hanging out with friends, learning how to drive. So it's a crazy journey.
What was going on with your family those 4 months while you were in a coma? It had to be tough on them.
Oh, it was tough. You know, those first 4 months, you know, especially for my wife. You know, my wife, you know, was from Mexico. She didn't speak very, very much English, if any. And I remember when she got called, because she had, at the time we were stationed up in Italy, and she had gone back to Mexico to be there with her family. Since all the other wives were heading back to the States, she didn't want to stay up there by herself. And while she was there, she had her residency card had gotten lost without the mail, because we had, within, I want to say, a year and a half, had moved from North Carolina to Korea to Italy, and her, you know, from there, after North Carolina, moved to Colorado, then Chicago, then, you know, then Italy. So her residency card had got lost. So when she got the call, you know, her visa had expired. So, and I remember her telling me a story that my teammates were like, hey, we got you. We'll call the embassy. We'll let them know what's going on. And she's like, no, I got this. You know, I'll call this, you know. And when she called, you know, she had told them everything what happened, who I was, who she was, where I was going to be, because, you know, they called her on December 5th, which happened to be on her birthday. Mm. And they had told her that, hey, DT's going to be in the hospital. They're going to bring him there at Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio the morning of December 7th. So she tells this to the person on the other line at the embassy, and And I kind of wish she grabbed the person's name, but the response she got was not a response you expect to hear. And what the person told her is like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you here. You can take your son, go to the border and try and cross it and see what happens.
Oh, God.
What's she supposed to think? Her husband's dying, and now you had the consular/embassy tell her that there's nothing to do for her. So, she was distraught. So she waited till my teammates called back. She tells them that. And like I said, I got there December 7th in the morning. My wife by my side December 7th in the afternoon.
Dang.
So, sometimes people always like to focus on the wounded service member or about our recovery, but sometimes I forget the families are the ones that see the worst of you, because maybe 4 months in a coma, you don't remember anything.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up afterwards, or anybody, if they're in the hospital and they're induced in coma or go to their recovery, they don't remember most of the stuff. But the families are there being told, hey, come run over here because your loved one's about to die. So they see your worst. So it was tough for her, and then not being able to speak the language. Luckily, I had good teammates. Randolph Air Force Base really rallied around her. My family liaison officer, which was an awesome dude, a combat controller, Chief Humphreys, great freaking dude. He saw the need to, she doesn't speak very good English. I'm going to find her interpreter. She, at the time, now he's retired. Both of these guys are all retired. Chief Gonzalez, and he translates, and he's always there with her. And because when I first got hurt, all these programs for the Air Force did not exist. Was it the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program or case managers? There was none of that when I got hurt, because most of our guys never survived, and we got hurt as badly as I did.
Mm-hmm.
Usually a lot of the policies were built for Vietnam for pilots that went down. But they never had ground guys, survive. So it was all new. But she was never left alone. But there's always going to be drama with stuff like that. And the way I found about the drama that happened with my family is, I remember I was going through in therapy, and I was coming out, and I saw family members arguing. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? It's like, it's the family fighting over what's going to happen with service member. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'm glad that didn't happen to my family. And the nurse that was helping me, she's like, oh, that happened to your family. And I'm like, what? So of course, I get home, I ask my wife, what happened? And she didn't want to tell me. But, because most people know, once you're married, the person that's in charge of what's going to happen to you is your spouse, your husband and your wife. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, your mom's there, your sisters, your brothers, aunts. The person in charge is that wife or husband. My wife starts telling me, like, yeah, your sisters and one of your aunts really attacked me a lot because they said, I don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know anything. You can't even speak English. And only your brother and one other aunt really stuck up for me. And I got a lot. I was very upset.
Right.
After my wife told me that, I called my sisters. I called my aunt. And I told him, I was like, I love you guys, but this is my family now. My wife, my son is my family. I was like, you have to respect me. I better never hear that ever happen again. And it's like, you guys should be happy that she stayed on my side, because you guys and her saw so many guys, girlfriends, fiancés, wives take off on them and leave them. or waited till they got their SGLI money and grab it and take off. She did it. She was always by my side. And so, I had to check my family to let them realize I have to respect my wife and my son. But yeah, that was tough, because one never wants to think that their family's going to bicker like that. You always figure, everyone's thinking in their head, your family's going to be united. You're going to be a bond, and they're going to have each other's back. But like the nurses and the doctor said, it always happens.
Yeah. Well, what is your relationship with Carmen like now? And was there ever? I mean, by the way, that's incredible. Yeah, she has been so loyal to you and stayed by your side. Were things ever bad enough? Were y'all, was it divorce ever an option? Like, did it get bad, or was it always just get a stronger and stronger relationship?
No, I think the issues that me and Carmen had was I was always very independent. So when I finally got out of the hospital and she had to do everything for me, that was tough for me. That she always wanted to help me. It's like, no, I got to do this. Let me do this. I have to learn how to do this, or I'm never going to be able to do things on my own. I'm always going to rely on you or my son. So that was our biggest issue. That she always wanted to do things for me, and I was like, no, let me learn how to do this on my own. And then I remember one of my teammates telling me, he's like, "Hey, let me give you some advice about being married." I was like, "What?" "Technically, you should only be married from 5 o'clock in the afternoon till 5 in the morning." I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, dude, because if you're with each other nonstop, you're going to end up killing each other. So you got to have your space." And I was like, why would he say that? Then when I was going through my recovery, when I was out of the hospital and I wasn't working still, there were times like, dude, I got to get out of this house, or me and my wife are going to end up killing each other. And that's why I guess sometimes, when I think of, God, once I finally retire out of the military, I have to find a part-time job. And we're going to end up, being like the War of Roses, that old movie.
Yeah.
But no, besides little things like that, we all families have their little arguments, stuff like that. But I always like to say she's a much better wife than I am a husband. She's much more patient than I am. A lot of times, I lose it for stupid reasons. And, I don't know if that's because of my injury, but, she's patient. She's been there, She gives me my space after, I get upset, but she's still here by my side. I always sometimes tease her. I was like, it's like, will you ever divorce me? She's like, no. I was like, why not? Because that's going to be your punishment. I was like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of being divorced. I'm like, man, that's cold-blooded.
Oh, bless her. Well, DT, and you were the recipient of the Pat Tillman Award for service in 2017, and how did that come about? Are you nominated, or how did they find out about you?
Honestly, brother, I really don't know. I remember being at work, and being, there at the 98 Wings of Blue Parachute team. And, we're getting ready for a job. I remember being the guy in charge of making sure, the load slips were correct, so correct jumpers and all that. And I get a phone call. I was like, and it's the PA people there at the Air Force Academy. It's like, hey, Senator Toro, we just want you to know that ESPN would like to invite you to the ESPYs. I was like, and they said, Dave, do you think you'll be able to make it? I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And they hang up. It's like, well, we'll relay this to the ESPN. And I hang up, and I told dudes, it's like, I just got invited to the ESPYs. So awesome. That's probably the only award show I ever watch. I just don't care about any of the other ones.
Uh-huh.
And then they call back like 20 minutes later. It's like, hey, Senator Toro, You do know you're being nominated for the Pat Tillman Award, the ESPY. That's why they want you to go to the ESPY. I'm like, what? Do you know that? It's like, I had no freaking idea. So they hang up again, and I'm like, now I'm even more excited. Because, Pay's like, yeah, the people from the Pat Tillman Foundation and ESPN's going to call you later this afternoon to talk to you about that. I'm like, all right. So, I'm excited. I tell everyone, I was like, dude, I got, they're nominated me. And, I get to home that afternoon, and I get a phone call from ESPN and the Pat Tillman Foundation. And they tell me, hey, Senator Toro, we've heard of you. You've been nominated to receive, or you're one of the finalists to receive the Pat Tillman Award for service. And I'm like, whoa. And they're like, we really hope you win it. We really want you to win it. Yeah, we think you're an excellent example of what Pat stood for. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm honored that you guys are not, I'm one of the finalists. I knew who Pat Tillman was. I followed him, because nowadays a lot of athletes aren't like the athletes of old that would quit their careers and join the military like Pat Tillman did. During World War II, how many Hall of Famers do you know that? Like Joe DiMaggio, Ted Williams, all these greats that gave up a couple of years of their career to, serve their country. So for me being nominated by him, it was an honor. It really, truly was. And then it's like, yeah, we'll let you know, probably another week or two, let you know if you're gonna win it. And I'm like, cool. And this was like maybe 2 days before I was leaving to go to the Warrior games up in Chicago, my hometown. And while I'm there, I get a phone call. I was like, Senator Toro? I was like, yes, sir. I was like, you have won the ESPN Pat Tillman Award for service. And I was like, holy crap. And they're telling me we're gonna take it, coming to the ESPYs, you're gonna be doing the red carpet, you're gonna be doing all this, and I'm like, whoa. And of course, I wanted to keep it quiet. I didn't want, they're concentrating on the Warrior games. I didn't want it to start focusing on me, but they did a big old press release, and of course they're at the opening ceremonies. They're like, yeah, we just want to congratulate Senator Toro that he is the winner of the Pat Tillman Award. He's going to be at the ESPYs. And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, great. It's like the secret tell. But it was, going there was such an amazing experience, And of course, I tell you, we want you to speak at the ESPYs. And I'm thinking, holy crap, what I'm going to say. Because, I've done speeches, but I've never done an acceptance speech. That's completely different.
Are they live?
Yeah, it's live.
Okay, wow. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. So they give me when I finally get there to LA, and I want to say it's the day before, they had given me a speechwriter, and they're saying, all right. And the speechwriter did a great job. I read what he wrote, but I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't sound like me. It's not something I will say. And I really wanted to focus on my acceptance speech. I'm thanking all the people that were there for me, that helped me get to where I was at. Because they're really the unsung heroes. Because you can't do it by yourself. You're always going to have help. And so this major opportunity on live TV, televised, nationwide, worldwide, I wanted to give thanks to these guys and gals. And, I tell the speechwriter, I want to do this, and afterwards he's like, I just want to let you know this is the fastest rewrite of a speech I've ever done. And, I practiced it twice on stage, and the third time was live. and it was crazy going through all that. You know, it was getting up there, saying, doing my acceptance speech, coming out, you know, doing more interviews, and then for me the most memorable part was after, you know, I did my speech and going backstage, doing some more interviews, and then going to this other room to try and get some water because I was thirsty at the time. I just hear someone yelling, DT, Sergeant Toro, DT. And I'm like, who's yelling my name? And I look back, and this tall black lady. And, I mean, she towers me probably by a whole foot. I'm like, oh, hi, ma'am. How you doing? I was like, I just want to tell you, oh, my God, that was such amazing. I loved it. Best speech I've ever heard at ESPN. And I'm thinking of, that was the best words. Like, for me, the great ones are like Jimmy V or Stuart Scott.
Yeah.
You know, those speeches. I'm thinking, man, those were amazing speeches. How could my speech compare? And she's like, oh my God, I forgot to even introduce myself. I'm Kevin Durant's mom. I was like, I just love it. Can I ask a favor? She's like, yeah, ma'am. Can I just give you a hug? And I'm like, yes. And she just gave me a big old hug. And that was so cool. And then other athletes just talk to me and, you know, talk to me like I was just like one of them and exchanging numbers and them being so cool. I mean, you know, to say one of them that I really stay in contact with who is a great dude is Chris Long of the Eagles. You know, he's always texting, how you doing, DT? You know, he had me come out, speak to the team, like the second game into the season, you know, but it was just an amazing experience. And the cool thing about it, because originally they were only going to give me one ticket, you know, to bring my wife. But I had asked them, hey, can I get another one, or at least two more? Because I wanted to bring my son. I told him he was a big part of this. I was like, I don't want to leave him out of this. So being able to be there with him, my wife, you know, it was an amazing experience because he got to experience something like that. Even though he's sometimes now kind of immune to that, or just doesn't act like that. Do I really got to go to some of your events? You know, because he's just like, oh, these guys are just like my dad's friends. You know, but to be there with him was awesome. You know, that made the whole night. Him being able to be there to see me receive that award, because he was a big part of my recovery.
Yeah, and they showed, you know, your wife and he when you got the award, and I saw, you know, there's pictures, you know, from on the red carpet, and you gave a really powerful speech. Well done on that. Like you said, a bad day at work.
Yeah, everyone remembers that a lot. They're like, dude, that was probably the coolest last line of any speech we've ever heard. It's like, did you think of that? I was like, yeah. It's like, how long did you work on that? And I was like, honestly, brothers, I'll tell you this, but not until the day prior when I rewrote that speech is when I finally thought of what I was going to say. Because all throughout, I just had no idea what I'm going to say, pacing back and forth. But yeah, it really came to me, because I've always said it's like, you know, no one's special. All I did was, you know, what any of other service members would do for their teammates, and yeah, it wasn't bad day at work, you know. Not like most people would think, but for us, it was a bad day at work.
Yeah, right. I think I saw a picture of you with a guest that we had on Patriot to the Core a couple months ago, Noah Galloway. Were you at an event or some events with him?
Yeah, I know Noah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Noah and I live in the same town, and we actually did an in-person interview back in September. So that was a good time. What about? I've got a question from a friend of mine who is a shot putter. Because I know you won a gold medal. You've won some medals in the Invictus Games, you know, a few different years. But you won the gold in shot put in 2016.
Yeah.
My buddy Steve asked, do you spin or glide?
I'm a glider.
Okay.
You know, I've tried to spin, not gonna lie, but you kind of need some sort of fingers to kind of hold that ball, the shot put in place as you spin, or it flies away. I don't know if I'm spinning too quickly and it just launches the shot put in a different direction, but yeah, I'm more of a glide guy.
Okay. And I know we're about out of time. I just wanted to, if I could just ask a few more questions.
Yeah.
If you've got a few minutes. I know you're a mentor and a role model to many people, but besides your son, who and what inspires you?
I really do find inspiration through a lot of things. Not only from, getting advice from mentors of my own, but I always attribute a lot of it, to my dad and my son. But I think back of when I was a kid, and I'm still into comic books. I shouldn't say I was into comic books. I'm still into comic books, but reading those old comics about, the superheroes. What kid did not want to be a Batman or a Superman or Spider-Man or any of these, comic book heroes? Because at the time, a lot of them had these values, just having this honor, stand up for good, never quitting. Or even cartoons, I remember, G.I. Joe, they always had, afterwards, they had little things that would say, hey, drugs aren't good, or, be there for your friends. But, I get stuff, I get motivated to do stuff like that. I get inspired to do stuff like that. Or also I'm not going to lie, watching other athletes or disabled, not only veterans, but civilians. Because I remember going to one of my first major competitions in track and field after I got hurt, and being nervous, and then seeing some of these disabled athletes do the things they did. Like, for me, what really blew my mind was the blind guys doing long jump. I was like, holy cow, these guys are really relying not only on someone else to direct them and going off the sound of the person clapping and them stopping clapping and then launching themselves into darkness and hoping landing on the sand. For me, that was like, holy cow, dude, this is awesome. Or seeing like little kids, with missing legs doing, I think they do like a 60-meter dash. Watching that, stuff like that inspires me. Or even other service members where it's their first time ever going out and doing something like that, and seeing how they're nervous at first, and then afterwards seeing the joy that they got from doing that event. All that inspires me. I know people like to see me as like I'm very inspirational, I'm motivational, and honestly, sometimes I don't see myself like that. I see myself as a normal dude. I don't see people see me in that light until when I hear people how I help change their life, and I'm like, holy cow, they really see me in this light. And they always ask me, how do you get inspired? I'm like, every day there's something inspiring out there. Living life is an inspiration, But, I get through all, from comic books to my dad, through my son, through other disabled service members, and through other speeches that I've heard throughout my life. Like I said, like the Jimmy V, the Stuart Scott, all these, from Kennedy to Churchill, all these great people that had these inspirational things. I've always, to even watching old Rambo.
Yeah. I can definitely quote some Rambo now for you.
Yeah.
Fire you up.
I think
have you been asked to do a TED talk?
I've never done a TED talk.
You need to.
Yeah, I've always heard about it. I was like, I've never done the TED talk.
Hey, what about, did you see the snapper for, I think it was USC, this past college season? They was blind, and he actually went into the game and snapped for a field goal or an extra point?
I did not see that.
See, that was awesome, man. That was moving. I'm pretty sure it was USC, and I'm pretty sure it was an extra point, and I think they were up pretty good, and Yeah, he went in and it was a successful snap, hold, and kick.
Well, like I said, there's so much inspiration out there that anyone can find. And like you said, watch a blind long snapper for a college team go out there and do that. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
The human spirit is such a strong, motivating thing, And sometimes, we do lose the sight of that, because all the crap that's going on around the world, but you'll have that moments around the world where you'll see something like that, and you're like, wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah. And one last question, DT. Back in September, you tweeted that you were going under the knife for the 120-something time, within like 3 years. What is your take on death and surgeries, especially since you've come so close to death so many times?
For me, if it's going to be my time, it's going to be my time. I always saw that. Like I said, from a young age, I learned to overcome things, adversity. So I knew life is short, so I enjoy it every day. So anytime I go under the knife, not gonna lie, I have the doctor play my favorite song of all time. It's the Led Zeppelin song, "Stairway to Heaven." I was like, just in case I'm not going to the place I want to go and I'm going the other way, at least I'm going to hear that song before, it'll be the last thing I hear.
Well, it's about like 9 minutes long, isn't it? So you got to wait a while before the surgery.
Oh, yeah,
is it long? It seems like it's one of the longest.
It's not too long. It's not like Freebird that's, legit 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
But, as they're prepping you, they're in the operating room, they have it playing for me, and then, right when they're about to go into the main guitar, that's when, they start putting the gas on me, and, that's the last thing I hear. But every surgery I have that done to me, But yeah, it is, because it is, every time you go under a knife, it is, you're challenging death, because you never know if you're going to come back from that.
Yeah.
How many? So I just assume anytime I go under, I ask for that, tell my family I love them, and get ready for it. Just like, I'll say a prayer, just like I did every time I jumped out of a plane. I was like, you know what, Dad, protect me. Let the chute open and let it go.
Well, you have overcome incredible odds, and you continue to push through challenges and inspire many, 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 many people. And so, thanks for being on here. I mean, what would you like to say in closing? And you went back to active duty, which is a huge feat. I mean, you're still working today. So, what would you like to say in closing?
I would just say, we're people always like to say, it's like, how can you do what you did? I could never do it. It's like, you don't know that. I didn't think that I ever thought I was going to be this guy that get blown up and they become an inspiration to millions and motivate millions. I'm like, no. You never know what you can do until it happens to you. And then when it does, don't give up. Keep fighting, because you have that strength inside of you. You just got to find it. And you're always going to have people have your back. If that ever happens to you, I'll be there for you. Give me a call. I'll talk to you. I probably won't be the most huggy person. I'm going to tell you, hey, man, stop your whining. Get out there and kick some ass. Yeah.
Well, thank you. It has been awesome, and thanks for letting me speak with you for a while and for speaking to the audience, the Patriot to the Core listeners. So I'll get with you soon, DT. I'll shoot you a text when it's going to go live if you want to listen to it. And
oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
Just give the link and all that. All right, so I really love talking to DT. He's a really good guy. I hope to meet him one day. If you want to follow him or reach out and say anything about how you enjoyed the interview or say anything to him, he's on Twitter at ideltoro21. That would be IDELTORO21. And he's on Instagram as well at IDT21. So the letter IDT is in Tom 21. That's Instagram. So reach out to him and let him know what you thought about the interview or what else he's doing. You can find all kinds of great videos of him online and articles. And also, please, I wish to ask that if you use Apple Podcast or iTunes as it was formerly called, please go to the podcast, to the app and rate it. It's very, very easy to do it from the app anyway. You can just find the episode, give us a rating, preferably you go away to the right and just do 5 stars and write a review, but I won't beg too much. Just a review would be wonderful and some feedback. So let me know what you think. And also I've had some people reach out to me like Dixie Nelly. Appreciate you reaching out and asking me some questions about different guests. So continue to please do that. And if I don't have the answers, I will ask those guests to give you the answers you're asking. So y'all have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.